everyone's not going to understand, because becoming an entrepreneur and giving it all you got is really about living your life to its full potential. And when you start to live your life to the full potential, everyone around you who isn't is going to feel bad, and you're going to make them look bad, and they're going to try to knock you down because they feel bad that you're doing something that they're not. And unfortunately, the beginning stages is when we want the acknowledgement the most from other people, and we're not going to get it. So then we keep going, we do something more difficult, and then we get judged a little bit more, and then we realize we're going to do it anyway. Then you get to a point where you don't need the acknowledgement. That's when you get it.
All right, I got mindset coach in the building, my man, Jason Drees. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rich. Good to be here, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you coming on, dude. I'm really excited for this conversation. You've been on before. We're good friends. I know you help a lot of folks in the mindset space, specifically Brandon Turner from BiggerPockets on his come up. But very excited for the conversation today. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So, a lot of people come to me and they're like, yo, Rich, like, dude, I'm in a position right now, like cash flow is very tight. I don't have any money right now. And I'm like, dude, I tell them, I'm like, dude, like being broke is part of the game. I'm like, in order to get to where I'm at today, like every 3 to 4 months, I'm shoving the chips all in, betting on myself over and over and over. And that's really how the game works, that regardless of the level, you're shoving the chips all in and the stakes just get bigger and bigger at every single level. And I also say, like, feeling uncomfortable is the price you pay for the growth you desire. One of my favorite quotes. And I feel like it's a limiting belief with a lot of people. They think, oh, like, I'm going to get into business. I'm going to get into real estate and it's going to be easy. I'm going to be making all this money and it's going to be easy. I'm like, no. That's not how the game works. You have to shove the chips all in at every single level in order to grow. You have to feel uncomfortable in order to grow. So drop some game on that.
Yeah, being an entrepreneur is hard. It's really hard, right? My favorite Gary Vaynerchuk quote is, business is constantly losing with an occasional win, right? And a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck because they're expecting it to be easy. And then when it gets difficult, then they get challenged. But the fact of the matter is, especially in a market like we're in right now, it's tough. Business is tough in general, but what really matters is staying in the game and facing the growth, because whatever level you come in as an entrepreneur, it's always going to teach you to grow. And your limiting factor is always going to be your ability to handle the growth. Because the version, let's say, for example, you're making 100, for example, and you want to become the version that's making 250 or 500, like that's a different version of you. That version is more integrated than has overcome some of the issues. So the biggest limiting factor that I've seen clients had from my 12 years of being a professional coach is really their mindset's ability to expand into that version. Because to become the higher version, you have to overcome the internal mindset contradictions or limiting beliefs from your past, which are there because we're mammals and we have a survival mechanism. When we go too far outside of our comfort zone, it fires off. And when I coach somebody like yourself or Brandon Turner, it's an entirely different game. Like, and I always say this to new entrepreneurs, like when I'm coaching somebody at a 7-8 figure or even 9-figure entrepreneur, I'm not coaching them on taking action.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, that's a given, right?
Yes.
And that's where the newer entrepreneurs get stuck, is they think action is optional. But so you got to get in the game,
So for those folks that are higher level, if you're not teaching them, action, what are you coaching them on?
A lot of times I'm helping pick up subtle contradictions in their mindset that they don't know are there, because they've learned how to become successful despite their soft spots. So they start operating in a frame where they can be effective, but technically it's limited a little bit.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. So what do you tell these folks that, because I do hear this a lot of time, and people struggling to take action, and things get a little bit tough, they get a little bit heavy. Then they tend to shy away and not lean in. And, from my experience, it's like, you have to lean in. Like life gets heavy before the level up. Right before the level up happens, that's when things get the heaviest. And so now when I feel it, well, first of all, I expect it now at every level. And when I feel things get heavy, I lean in, and that's where I double down. And then you push through, and it gets tougher and tougher. And then eventually you pop out on the other side and you're like, damn, a whole new door opens up, a whole new door gets unlocked, a whole new level gets unlocked. And then that's the new baseline, And so what do you tell these folks that, are not used to that feeling? They're not conditioned for it yet. What do you tell them when things get tough?
I like to talk about it like getting in the game is what I call it, right? And the example I'll give you is, let's say you've got a new entrepreneur, maybe they're a new business owner, or maybe they're a real estate investor. Real estate investors are kind of the easiest example. and they're thinking about making their first deal. They're analyzing over and over again and not getting anywhere, right? And it's almost like they're on the sideline. They want to play basketball. They're watching the game, and the person they're going to sub for just got an elbow in the face and broke their nose. So they're trying to mitigate the risk of getting in the game, right? That's what those entrepreneurs are doing. Like, so if those real estate investors, the new ones who are stuck, they're trying to mitigate the risk. But you can't, because investing is an inherent risk. You can't, so you're getting stuck in this loop, right? So the answer to that is to make a decision to remove the option of not getting in the game. And the best example I have is, like, have you taken a 6 a.m. flight before?
Yes.
And what time you got to wake up?
Typically 4 o'clock.
Do you ever snooze?
Maybe a couple times, but at a certain point, I know I got to get up and go.
You're like, boom,
Yes.
like it's up, right? Well,
Yes.
Most people say no, they get up, but you're close by the airport. But anyway, it's that basically means I removed the option of not taking the action. So you're basically giving, what I say to those people who are kind of stuck getting in the game with action, it's like, you need to remove the option of not doing it. And then all of the emotion and stress around the action and getting in the game disappears instantly.
Yeah, it's like the difference of having a 6 a.m. flight and you're telling yourself you're going to go to the gym at 6 a.m. You're likely going to make the 6 a.m. flight.
Yeah.
But you're 50% chance of making it to the gym at 6 a.m. And so Kobe Bryant said this years ago. I think it was back in the middle of his career. He was coming off a down year. They didn't make the playoffs or something like that. And he was like, this offseason, I'm not negotiating with myself. I'm not negotiating with myself. He's like, I'm going to make every single freaking workout. I'm going to make every single practice. I'm not going to negotiate with my diet. I'm going to freaking eat the nutrition that I need to eat. I'm going to make every single 2-a-day workouts, the weight room, all that sort of stuff. And he made a promise with himself that offseason, and then came back the next year and he was league MVP, and that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And because it also turns into a standard, right? When you're starting out, you're not sure what to take. You start taking action, but when you start to play at a high level of, like, I'm taking the action, remove the option, then it starts to become a standard. And that's when you really start to accelerate. And then, so that's step one, is taking the action. And step two is making sure in alignment with the target. So we're not pointing in the wrong direction.
And when you say alignment, like 100% alignment with your target, you talk about that all the time. Break that down.
So it's, as entrepreneurs, we can be aiming at a target and be 50% certain we can hit it, 80% certain. And if you're not 100% certain you can hit the target, you're out of alignment with the target. It's like, imagine I say, hey, Rich, come visit me in Austin, Texas. I give you an address. You drive for about 8 hours and you realize the address is wrong. Do you keep driving?
I'm gonna call you and be like, yo, what's going on?
You're gonna stop and get directions, right? But as entrepreneurs, we don't do that. We just work harder, because we'd rather spend a day taking action, not getting anywhere, than sit there, do nothing. But what I'm really talking about is getting your mindset in alignment with the target. And that basically, so it basically means if you're less than 100% certain you can hit the target, your mindset is out of alignment with the target. And when your mindset is in alignment with the target, then it creates an aligned mindset. And then you get aligned action. You start to get into a state of flow. You start to get new ideas, and you start to radically shorten the time to hit the target. And that's why a lot of times I basically compress timelines for clients. They could do it 5 years on their own. They work with me, it's a year. Because you keep them focused on the target.
Yeah. And I know shortening timelines is huge. It's quick. Like I will say money loves speed, but if you got something you want to do in 5 years, ask yourself, how can you do it in 1 year? And sometimes that might feel lighter than the 5-year goal. I like shorter time horizons because you get the quicker feedback loop.
Yeah. And the challenge we have is the success formula we've been taught. We've been taught to be successful, work hard. And when that's not working, work harder. Right? That has nothing to do with alignment with the target. So, and that's where, and you'll start to maybe look at a mentor or kind of talk to somebody who's done it before. And sometimes mentor strategies work, but the majority of the time they don't, because the mindset is in alignment. So the thing is, if you're taking action and you're not making progress to the target, it means your mindset, which creates your actions, is out of alignment with the target.
Yeah,
it's
that's
the same
really
thing
good.
as getting lost in Phoenix trying to get to my house in Austin, Texas. You need to stop and get your direction.
Yeah, that's really good. Why is it that sometimes, if we ask ourselves, hey, like, how do we 2x the revenue this year? Sometimes if we step back and say, hey, how do we 5x the revenue? How come sometimes the 5x is easier than 2x? Why is that?
Well, because if you're aiming at incremental growth, you can stretch the old formula.
Just do more work.
Do more
reps.
Do a little bit more. I can push it a little bit.
Yeah.
When you break the model, you have no choice but to create a new formula.
I was talking to my business coach. We meet every Monday. We've been meeting for like 3 years now. But he challenged me, my perspective recently, a few weeks ago. He's like, hey, like how much is one of the arms of the business? He's like, how much do you want to make in revenue between now and the end of the year? And so I told him the number, and he was like, okay, what would need to be true if we were to 3x that number between now and the end of the year? And I said, well, I'd have to do more of this, more of that, and more of this, more of that. And he's like, no. Let's just say that you're only responsible for 20% of that new number. What would you need to do? And I said, well, I would completely stop doing this, and I would really shift my focus to the top of the funnel, more content, more marketing, more media, and I would have to go hire this person and this person. And he's like, so why aren't we doing that? And I'm like, damn. And I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
You know,
and leverage is a big place where people get stuck, right? Bringing in leverage, because until you get to the point of business where you're no longer the bottleneck, you're always the bottleneck. And there's like kind of like 4 phases I like to think about business, right? Like there's the first phase is earning your first dollar, and that's like takes forever. You got to work your hard, and then when you earn your first dollar, then you got to replace the next phase is replacing your day job, and that phase is like total ownership of everything, right? And the next phase is, instead of replacing your income, it's replacing yourself. And that is where 95% of entrepreneurs never make it, because it's a complete contradiction. Step 2 is take ownership of everything. Step 3 is let go of everything. And then phase 4 is basically duplicating in other businesses. But that's typically where most newer entrepreneurs get stuck, because when they start to think about leverage, they try to find a clone of themselves, which doesn't exist.
That, and I also feel like sometimes the constraint, what they think is the constraint, is not always the constraint. So like, for example, if someone has a coaching business, maybe it's in a fitness space, and they think, hey, I need to go hire like closers. But then it's like, okay, you ask them, okay, how many like sales calls are you getting on a week? And it's like, oh, I'm getting on like 3 a week. And it's like, okay, like the constraint is not you need closers, like you need more leads at that point if you want to really like increase and scale the revenue. And so I think identifying what the biggest constraint is also a skill.
Well, that's where coaching comes in.
Yes.
Because it's hard to coach the game while you're playing it.
And
the reason why your business coach was able to say that very simply, because he's outside of it and has perspective that you don't have.
Yes.
So that's why you want to have a coach, because if you don't have a coach, you're going to be beat by somebody who has a coach.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in having coaching at every level. I think it's one thing I've learned, in addition to, being willing to bet on yourself, shoving the chips all in, is never be cheap about investing in yourself. And that's getting in the right rooms, investing in a coaching. I mean, if you look at the most talented and successful folks in the world right now, regardless of level and regardless of what industry they're in, whether it's business or even, professional athletes, LeBron James, for example, he's got tons of coaches, mindset, nutritionists, fitness, like everything. And it's not just basketball, right? And so I'm a big believer in it. And I think the more you invest in yourself, the more you win, the more you level up, especially in today's age. And by the way, today is the best era ever to live in, because our access to information has never been easier. Ability to get in the right rooms. I mean, they didn't have mastermind communities back, 20, 30 years ago. That wasn't a thing. But now you have the ability to get in the right rooms. You have the ability to digest a lot of information, even for free, like on this podcast right now, which is big. So, a couple of the other constraints that I hear a lot is not just, ability to wake up early, ability to push past, but this is a big one. And I think this is something, for the folks listening to this right now, I think a lot of folks can resonate with this. But whenever you start something new, let's just say that you're, in corporate America and you're looking to start your side hustle, and this is going to be your exit out of corporate America. And maybe you start a business as a side hustle, or maybe you get into real estate investing. These first 12 months are very, very challenging. It could be the first 24 months because it's new. A lot of people are going to judge you. You're not going to see the success. You're not going to have that positive feedback loop right away, right? And you're going to get a lot of judgment. A lot of people are going to tell you it's risky, and you kind of have to reposition your identity. You have to reposition your social circle, and you have to really start believing that you're this future version of yourself in order to successfully say bye to the old version of yourself, right? And it's hard. It doesn't happen overnight, right? Once you push past that initial 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, and you start to see a little success on the other side, then you start to believe it and you start to rise and really become that version of yourself that's going to allow you to really propel. But until you get there, it's very hard. And so what do you tell those folks that are, in the beginning stages of starting that new side hustle, the new identity, and they're still hanging out with the old version of themselves? They still have the old friend group. They got family members telling them it's too risky, and they have a lot of doubt in their mind and they want to give up.
Yeah. Well, it's don't stop. Don't stop. Like I was in that phase for like 5 years as when my personal coaching business, I was working for Tony Robbins as a full-time Tony Robbins coach. At one point I had 75 clients I was coaching. I was on the phone, like 14 30-minute coaching calls a day, doing vocal warm-ups, humidifier to keep my voice going. And then I had 2 small children. I'd go home, put my kids to bed. I'd come back to the office and work from 9 to 1 to get my personal business going over and over again. And then because you have to it's almost like you got to prove it to life, and eventually there's going to be a breakthrough that shifts everything. And I had a breakthrough years later when I started working with Brandon Turner. And then literally a year after that, I 10x my business. But it's in those early phases, it's like, it takes a unique individual to make it, because everybody's not going to be an entrepreneur, but like you have to not stop, number one, and you have to be open to pivot, because it's most likely going to shift than what you think it is. It's, and because I've had people come hire me as a coach, but they heard of me through Brandon Turner. And I'm like, well, why are you focusing on real estate? And because I want passive income. Well, why do you want passive income? Because I want to be a painter, because I'm an artist. Well, you need to start as an artist, not real estate, right? So it's a lot of times life will start to unfold and you'll start to see doorways open where you start to get things flowing and moving. So a lot of times, somebody may start in real estate, but they turn out that they're getting a painting business or something like that, right? There's always a pivot there. So it's like, don't stop, and then be aware of what life is bringing you so you can pivot in the next direction. And then the breakthrough typically comes from a new idea, a new connection, or a new opportunity. And what people don't realize is that breakthrough happens in like a moment, like it's a second, right? So if your mindset is in alignment with that type of breakthrough, it will happen. If your mindset is not in alignment with that type of breakthrough, it'll never happen. So it's stay in the game, don't stop, be open, and also keep working on your mindset, because that's going to be the limiting factor.
Now, how do you balance this? Because I see both perspectives. One side of the coin is like, hey, this game is all about saying no to all these distractions and really just going hard in the paint for 2, 3, 4 years on the same thing. And that's really how you become the best at any given niche or whatever your craft is. The other side of the coin is you're saying, hey, those that pivot win the game, right? Be fluid, be flexible, be open to pivot, and take what the defense has given you. Now, how do you balance the two? Because we also know that the other side of that coin is people that are willing to pivot, they also suffer from what we call, shiny object syndrome. And they're just bouncing around from thing to thing to thing. And every 3 months, they're on to the next exciting thing. But then once they learn about it, they realize, hey, it's not exciting anymore. It's going to require a little bit more work than I initially thought of. Then they're jumping on the next thing. And then 3 months later, they're on the next thing. And they actually never make any progress. So how do you balance those two?
I think it's easy to tell the difference. Okay. Because for me, it was I was in the summer of 2012 when my Tony Robbins coach asked me, have you ever thought about becoming a coach? And it was like I got struck by lightning. It was like, boom, I fell in love with coaching in that moment. So coaching became the work that I couldn't not do. So if I'm talking to an entrepreneur and they're like, this is my passions, my purpose in life, then that's why I knew it was all coaching. If it's like, if you had asked me 10 years earlier, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know what to do. Then it's just take massive action to see what works. And you need to be aware if you're taking massive actions for 2 years and you're dumping money in, and it's not like, I've had clients who've had businesses, they've dumped a couple $100,000 and it's still not making money. It's like, stay committed to the goal of an entrepreneur, but this thing is not working. Like, you need to let it die and go to the next thing.
Yeah. I always say, and one thing I'm learning as I kind of grow is a lot of this game is really getting clear every 3 months, every quarter, and especially once a year on what arms of your business and your life are working and what arms are not working. Like what's working, what's not working right now. And either tabling, eliminating the things that are not working, or delegating the things that are not working. And then the things that are working, doubling down on. Alex Hormozi said all the time, it's like, when things get easy, that's where you go hard. Double down on it. And so the things that are working within your life right now, things that are working that are working within your business right now, it's like, okay, let's find a way to double down on that. How do we do more of that? And how do we eliminate the things that are not working? And That's one thing I really learned, that a lot of this game really is. And if you can get clear on what those things are, and you can put a good plan in place and actually execute, you can grow pretty quick.
Yeah, and I find that life is giving us answers whether we see it or not.
Mm.
And my content is actually pivoting right now. Like I have just been through a divorce over the past year and a half from my partner of 16 years. So it was like really challenging experience. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
well, I'm happy. Thank you. Appreciate that. And coming
Mm.
out the other side, I'm happy that it happened. It was for the best.
Yeah.
For the best. And so I put out some content about divorce and it blew up.
Really?
And I'm just like, ran Facebook ads and it's like $7 signups with phone number. I'm like,
Mm.
so apparently life runs me to talk about divorce right now. So I'm talking about divorce right now.
Mm.
It's also coincides with my second book is going to be kind of like the journey of through the fire, through the collapse, the fire, the rebirth, which we all go through anyway. Mine was just the lens of the divorce for the past year and a half.
Mm.
But that was
It resonates with a lot of people.
it does. That
Yeah.
was my
It's
next
a big
evolution.
pain point.
It is a big pain point, but it's also we all go through that cycle of collapse, fire, rebirth, embodiment, because it's basically an identity death. Mine was just through the lens of divorce. And so you've been through it as well as you go to higher and higher levels too. But basically the high performance marketing and coaching wasn't working right now because the markets, and most of my clients have historically been real estate.
Yeah.
Real estate guys don't have any money right now.
Mm.
So that wasn't working. And I'm shocked at looking at what's working. So that was like, okay, let's do this for a while, see what happens, because the coaching is the same. It doesn't matter what the coaching is, but it's the lens of it.
That's
And
really good.
So that's why it's like, we got to stop and pay attention to what life is giving us. Cause a lot of times we can get so like pigeonholed or not see what's going on.
Out of curiosity, I'd be curious to know what is the best hook right now that's working. And if you're talking relationship, divorce, marriage, all that sort of stuff, what do people resonate with?
Let's see. What's worked well is like, it's not the end of you. It's an illusion, or it's the end of the illusion, basically. Divorce isn't the end of the illusion. And and I'm really talking about thriving from divorce instead of surviving it. That's what I'm doing. So I'm teaching people how to like really make it the best chapter in this, because if you're going through divorce, things are most likely not going good anyway. Yeah.
I've never been married, but I just went through a breakup with my last relationship. We lived together about a year and a half. We were together, and we broke up early August. So it's been August, September, October, November. Been about 3.5 months. But now looking back, I'm like, it all happened for a reason, right?
Yeah.
I experienced the most growth I ever had in that relationship. There was a lot of good that came out of it. I became a better version of myself, and now I'm already dating someone new, and this relationship, the new one, and everything is like really kind of catapults me into a whole new level and a whole new perspective. And so, I think it goes back to what you're saying. It's like everything happens for a reason, and it's all how you shift your perspective on it.
Yeah. Cause the divorce transformed me. It was tough. Like it was hard. Like it was like, I never would have guessed my 51st year would be the worst year of my life. But it was, I went to this pit of darkness and just like suicidal thoughts, and just like, it was hard, but at the bottom of that pit, I found myself, and and each time I went in, I found a different piece, and it transformed who I am. I'm like more present. I'm more masculine. I'm a better dad. Like everything's better. I realized how unhappy I actually was for a long time, and how much I had to like make myself small to survive in that relationship. Because men kind of get in a pattern of, we'll just sacrifice ourselves, but it's really kind of giving me the strong foundation. And now there's a new direction in some of my content, and it's helping a lot of people. So
Yeah.
it's kind of,
No, that's good, man. And back to your point, like you got to be willing to adapt. You got to be willing to pivot and really take what the market's given you, and I'm a big fan of, not waiting for the perfect plan and testing the marketplace to see if there's demand before you like spend all this time building out the perfect plan. Right. I think we do a pretty good job of that. I'm like, hey, let's just go see if there's interest. If there's interest, we can double down. If there's not, then we can pull back and we can make a pivot. And I think a lot of people can learn by that model, that mindset. Which brings me to my next thing is, what do you tell the folks out there that, have the fear of being judged? They have the fear of failure, the fear of being judged. You see this with a lot of folks that, especially business owners, real estate investors that want to build their personal brand. And they know they need to do it and they want to do it, but then they're fearful of being judged by others, friends, family members, people they went to high school with. They're fearful of what those people are going to think. What do you tell those folks?
I remember when I first started doing a lot of social media stuff with Brandon Turner,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember looking at his YouTube page, and I've had a lot of successful clients and happy clients. I've changed their lives and made them like tons and tons of raving clients. And then on the the YouTube comments, somebody's like, Brandon's videos with our coach are the worst videos that he does. And I was just like, kind of like, was heartbroken, you know?
Damn,
And I felt sad, and
that's rough.
it was rough. And part of me is like, well, I guess I'm at the point where I'm getting haters, so that's a good thing, you know, because now I'm actually being seen. But then I went through a thought process and I realized it's like, okay, there's a person here who knows nothing about me, who's judging me based on what they've seen online. And then these other people who know me really well, that's invested with me a lot of money, and I've changed their lives and they love me. So it's like, am I willing to take the heat from the people who don't know who I am to serve the ones who do? So, and I've come to realize that the work that I do requires visibility. Visibility requires content. People not liking you is part of the game. And what I've come to realize is the people that matter will like you. The people who don't like you don't matter. And I remember this quote I heard about Christian Bale, where he said, if anybody has a complaint about me, you can text me. And if you don't have my phone number, you don't know me well enough to have a complaint about me.
That's really good.
So it's like,
that's really good.
It's part of the game. You know, it's part of the game. And part of that is also the personal growth with believing in yourself, being the first entrepreneur in your family, having people think you're crazy, have my brother-in-law calling me, telling me I'm a deadbeat and he's got to raise my kids for me. Like, you know, did he call me back when I made 7 times what he made? No, you know, so it's the people, everyone's not going to understand, because becoming an entrepreneur and giving it all you got is really about living your life to its full potential. And when you start to live your life to the full potential, everyone around you who isn't is going to feel bad, and you're going to make them look bad, and they're going to try to knock you down because they feel bad that you're doing something that they're not. And if you can ignore that, and unfortunately, the beginning stages is when we want the acknowledgement the most from other people, and we're not going to get it. So then we keep going, we do something more difficult, and then we get judged a little bit more, and then we realize we're going to do it anyway. Then you get to a point where you don't need the acknowledgement. That's when you get it.
Yeah.
Did you experience that?
Yeah, I totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like words of affirmation for me, I know it's a love language for some folks. I used to value it a lot more, but as I've grown, because I get it a lot more, right? I get a lot more compliments and that sort of stuff, such as just walking down the street or whatever. More people will acknowledge me. Because I get it more and more, I actually value words of affirmation from a love language perspective a lot less, right? And it's the same thing with, like, you know, let's just say, for example, this would be a extreme example, a girl that's, you know, on OnlyFans, right? She's getting attention from guys left and right, all over social media, all on OnlyFans. And so it's like she's getting so much compliments and words of affirmation that if a stranger on the street says, hey, or maybe it's her boyfriend that she's been with for 3 years, is like, hey, you look beautiful today, it doesn't mean much to her because she gets it 100 times a day. You see what I'm saying? Versus the girl that's maybe a nurse that lives at home by herself, and her, you know, idea of, you know, her highlight of the day is taking her dog on the walk or going to Pilates class, and doesn't get a ton of interaction from other men. She might really value a guy that gives her a compliment, you know?
And that part of the growth, because like I said earlier, getting the level of success you're after requires becoming the version of you that gets the success. And so if you're having resistance to being judged or self-judgment, that's your opportunity, and basically life telling you to go look inside yourself for the contradictions, because what's actually happening is you're not giving yourself the acknowledgement and self-love that you have, so you're seeking it externally. So the antidote for people-pleasing and self-seeking, externally seeking a validation, is to give it to yourself. Because once you validate yourself, which everyone successful has, like which you have, what other people say doesn't matter anymore, because you're already giving yourself the acknowledgement. And that is the mindset work that is part of this process.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we come in. We move that through you, move you through that faster.
Yeah, I would say the right doors won't open for you until you become the version of yourself that's supposed to walk through them. And every time you become a new version of yourself, a new door gets unlocked. Yeah, it's but you know what? Like, I love that. You know, like you can, you know, as a guy, you can be gifted not a lot of traits physically that are gonna you know, allow you to really excel at an early age. But then you can go work on yourself. You can go reinvent yourself, and you can figure out a way to become Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, and really have, you know, all the options that you could ever ask for. And so, yeah, I think for anyone listening to this right now, if you feel stuck, you don't feel like you're growing, you're looking for that next thing, it's like, it's never too late to reinvent yourself. I mean, I was 33, for example. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was working 11 years as a full-time air traffic controller, working nights, weekends, holidays. For most people, that's like their thing. And I thought I was going to be doing that to my entire career. And then I woke up one day and I was like, you know what? I want to get into business. I want to get into real estate investing. And, you know, in the last 7 years, I've been able to build this thing and it's been way more fulfilling. I always say happiness stems from growth and progress. But like, I'm not satisfied. That's the other thing. It's like, I'm not satisfied. And when I think of, where I'm at today, I look at these people above me and I feel like I have a lot of catching up to do. I got a lot of work to do. And I don't think I'll ever stop growing or progressing. Like it's crazy how when you get obsessed with the game, like you're never satisfied.
Yes, and I would give you some coaching on that too.
Break it down right now.
Because that's very common to like never be satisfied, but that also means you're never complete. So one thing I hear a lot is people is like, especially achievers, I got to be better every day. Be better.
Yeah.
1% better every day.
You get addicted to it.
Got to be. But the problem is, if you say every day I got to be better for the rest of your life, you'll never reach your peak. Because you're basically saying every day I'm not as good as I should be. So you're basically in a limited frame. So the evolution I would invite you to explore, instead of, and this is hard for entrepreneurs because we live in the future results.
Sure.
Is not about satisfaction, it's about expansion. Because the next level of your frequency, which will go much higher, is when you're satisfied and you're expanding versus being incomplete and being fulfilled by the expansion.
Now, how do you become satisfied but then still stay hungry? Because if you're not satisfied, it's no better motivation to like get better and put in the work, put in the reps, put in the at bats. But I feel like when you're satisfied and you get comfortable, that's where the growth kind of stops.
That was your motivation when you were younger.
Okay.
I'm guessing you probably don't need that type of motivation anymore, because at this point you grow because you enjoy it. You grow and expand because of who you are. Like you love the game, you have fun, you expand, like look at all the cool shit you do, right? Like you're never going to stop doing that. The only minor adjustment I'm saying is like, everything's fucking amazing right now, excuse my language, and it's getting better. Not, I got left and I got to get more. Because the second one is a slight frame of limitation. And where we're going is complete embodiment of everything that you are, and instead of chasing it in the future, because that's a higher frequency. And that's an example of how I coach high-level people with very subtle ways that you don't know that you're limiting yourself. Because, and it's not that you're limiting yourself, it's that there's an additional capacity to step into by owning all of yourself with alignment with where you're going. But you've been operating under the formulas you've been using for the past 7 years, and some of them you still need and some of them you don't.
Break down high frequency versus low frequency.
High frequency is like, you're integrated, you're aligned, you're authentic, like versus like going out and doing shit you're not supposed to do is low frequency, right? So it's just like living, and the higher your frequency, the more you're creating, because all of our bodies are made of atoms. They're energy, their frequency, and every day you're alive, you're more and more frequency. And the more you can expand, the more you start to shape reality with the law of attraction. And the more powerful you are, like the most powerful you can be is your authentic self, where your mind, your soul, and all of you is aligned. And what I'm hearing right now is there's a slight little resistance there saying, well, I need to be over here. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a tiny adjustment there of, instead of, you don't need, like, I love it here, because there's a misperception in, I'm guessing, I may be wrong, but a misperception in your story that if that frame goes away, you'll lose your drive. And I'm telling you, no, you're not going to lose your drive, because it's who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's, one thing I'll say on this is, because I'm in the grind every single day, I'm in the hustle every single day, and I'm building it, I'm in the trenches with my team. And you're always putting out fires as an entrepreneur. There's problems every single day, putting out fires every single day. It's just part of the game. Things get heavy, and then you break through and you have a new level, and then you're like, things get heavy again. But I don't give enough credit to the progress, because I'm in it every day. And so I don't see the progress. But then when I go back in my camera roll and I see videos of myself from a year ago, I'm like, oh, it makes me cringe. And especially if I go back 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I'm like, whoa, I don't even recognize myself, right? And so what I'm saying is I don't give enough credit to the growth because I don't see it, because I see it every single day. I'm in it. And so you don't see it from the outside.
And that's an area of growth for you, because you ever notice like really high performers, they were performing, they all get to the point where they almost seem like really egotistical. But what actually happens is they get into a higher level of ownership of their success. And when you get into more ownership of your success, you get into more openness and more alignment, so more flows in. And right now, it sounds like there's still a little bit of the old mindset of I'm in the grind because that's what it takes to get there, versus the day-to-day, call it a grind or whatever. That's my life. I love it. And it's growing and expanding because that's who I am. And so really, if I was coaching you, I'd say I'd encourage you to like own it even more. And it doesn't matter if people think you're being egotistical. No, this is who I am. This is what I created. This is what I do, because that removes even any more residual doubt anywhere, which creates more alignment, which creates a higher frequency, which creates more power, more success, greater opportunities.
When you say own it even more, elaborate on that.
Well, I'm sensing, I may be wrong, that you're still operating from a place of this is the model you get here. And like I think there's a level of ownership that you could move into where you realize you've already made it. And you don't have to do anything else because you're already there. Now, that doesn't mean you're done, but you've already made it and you earned it. You did it yourself, grinding year after year when no one else was telling you, nights, weekends, you made that happen. Like, that's your power. You earned that. And no one can take that away from you. And that level of authenticity and integrity is what makes you like magnetic to other people. And the more magnetic you become, the more people will want to be around you.
Yeah.
And then you go from 300,000 followers to 600.
So, essentially what you're saying is act like you're the guy now and be more confident.
No, I'm not saying act like it. I'm like, realize you already are that guy.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. I'm very confident with everything I'm doing. I'm very confident for sure. But I think I don't give credit to the progress because I'm in it every day.
Well, yeah. And you may have not even stopped to think about it, but
like it's never good enough. You see what I'm saying?
But that's
what I'm trying to say. It's never good enough.
But we need to change that.
Yeah.
Because that's a limited frame and it'll never be good enough. But what I'm picking up on
in
right
all
now,
the arms of the business, right? Like as a business owner, it's like there's always things to improve, and we're just like I'm always identifying the biggest constraint. I'm like, all right, let's improve this arm, and let's prove this. Let's get better here. Let's get better there. Like it never ends.
And
you see what I'm saying?
And the way to shift would be right now in this moment, it's as great as you could make it. You gave it like in this moment, it is as great as it is, and we're going to expand it. So it's complete versus deficient.
That's really good.
But this is the subtle high level coaching that I do with high level people, because you've been operating in a way that's successful, but there's still a little bit of pockets where you don't realize resistance is limiting your thinking and your frequency.
Yeah.
And that's where you start to unlock bigger areas.
That's really good. That's really
Most
good.
coaches don't pick up on this stuff. And I just am naturally wired that way.
Yeah. That's really good. So, when you say, most people stay stuck in the planning phase, what's a way to break through that framework?
As in like new entrepreneurs, or is that what do you mean? Like,
yeah. We alluded to it a little bit earlier in the show, but, remember when I gave the example, I said, hey, if we're going to try something new, instead of coming up with the perfect plan, I'm like, let's just go test the marketplace and see if there's something there.
Yeah.
If there is, we'll double down on it. And so, I think people that want to get into something new, they get stuck into this big planning phase, and they might not actually start the journey for multiple years, or maybe they don't even ever start the journey. Because they're waiting for the plan to get perfect. And the truth is that their plan is never going to be perfect, and the timing is never going to feel perfect. I've never been married. I've never had kids, but I imagine like a lot of people tell me when they have kids, they're like, it didn't feel like the timing was right, but they did it anyways. And then it turned out to be like this amazing experience. And so, spit some game on people that are looking for that, looking to start that business for the first time. They're looking to start that side hustle. They're looking to, buy that first real estate investment. And they're waiting for the perfect plan. They're waiting for market conditions to be perfect. They're waiting for the interest rate environment, all this stuff. And then 10 years go by and they've never done it before. But how do you push back past that from a mindset perspective?
The first thing I say is done is better than perfect, because perfect doesn't exist, right? So a done result is something you can grow on. And you can also have version 1 result and go after version 2, but you've got to do something, right? Otherwise you're just sitting on the sidelines for the whole time. The other thing is like, you need to focus on something you can control. So if you're aimed at an outcome you can't control, then like, I'm going to try to make this investment successful or this business successful. You can't like, because a tornado could hit the building or whatever, right? So you can focus on launching the business by this date, have all the operations running, have the marketing running. So a lot of times we can end up aiming at a target we have zero control over, and we're trying to figure out how to control it, and we kind of loop there, right? Or we haven't made a decision, right? We're wanting to, but we haven't actually decided to. So if you're not taking the action, I would say, number 1, do you have a target you're aimed at that you can control? And number 2, have you actually made a decision to do it? Because a lot of times, I'd say probably 80% of the times I'm talking to clients like that, they haven't actually made the decision to do it yet. They're just doing all the prep work and avoiding the decision.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. And so committing to the target is the next step, theoretically.
Yeah, it's committing to the action, the target, the action. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which would be different than like, buying a real estate deal, right? Typically you put a commercial real estate deal in a contract, you have a 30-day due diligence period. And then it's like, you're going through 30 days of, hey, does this check the box? Does this check the box? Oh, we discovered this. And then let's look more into the market. Let's look into all these different variables. And then within the 30-day window, then you figure out if you're actually going to commit.
Well, that's still a process too, right? A lot of the new real estate investors or new hotel investors are trying to like find the right one, right? And the right one is like, you got to start somewhere, because perfection doesn't exist. And when you're starting a business or invest in an investment property, there is inherent risk you can't outplan. You can't. And if it's too much risk, then you need to aim smaller to something. And I would really say, if you're getting a new investor, focus on a deal that you can handle, not losing all your money on. Because when you're aiming too big, then it's just going to shut you down, right? Because while we don't want to aim at losing, it's a possibility, right? But you're never going to get better until you start doing deals.
That's true. That's true. I would say, if you invest where you would stick your grandmother's last $100,000, that's typically a good place to invest. The most successful people in the game all started, then figure it out how. They didn't ask how to start.
Yep.
So, I mean, how much is that though, when people are looking for the perfect plan, reading the next book, they're reading one more podcast, they're going to take one more course before getting started. How much of that is them just delaying? They're just looking for an excuse to not start yet.
It is. And there's usually a reason there. I'll typically at that point just say, stop and go back to your W-2. And then they'll go, no. I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm like, so
why do you want to be an entrepreneur?
Why? There's usually a reason. There's a fear they haven't uncovered. There's always some fear. And it could be, my dad started a business and it went down in flames and we suffered as a family for 5 years. It could be something like that. But there's a fear there that's blocking them that they haven't uncovered. And if you don't know how to uncover your mindset and don't know how to change your mindset, you end up kind of being the victim of it, because your mindset is based on your brain, your computer, your mind is a computer that's cataloged everything for as long as you've been alive. And when you start to go beyond that model is where we start to stretch, and our survival mechanism will kick in if we're growing too much. But you've got to really figure out how to change your mindset. And that's why mindset coaching is so important, because it's always that invisible anchor that's going to hold you back. But when you remove that anchor, remove that fear, and replace it with something that's pulling you in the right direction, it's a total game changer.
What do you tell the folks out there? Because confidence is a big thing.
Yeah.
And, especially in the beginning, you don't have the confidence, you don't have the experience, you don't have the competency. And it's hard to take action when you're not confident. So how do you gain confidence as a new business owner or a new real estate investor?
Well, I would change their perspective on what's causing the lack of confidence, because they may be looking at the whole deal, but they may be overwhelmed because one part of it is overstimulating for them and they don't get it, or they're not good with money, right? But if you break the formula down to there's a belief running that's causing the lack of confidence. So it's not like they're lacking confidence. They have something that's contradicting their confidence. And that is something from their mindset, limiting belief, fear, that if you remove that, it goes away. And that's why I'll say, like, that's why this alignment coaching works so well. Like, let's say you're 70% confident, 30% doubt, and some people will do like affirmations or whatever to try to make that 70% or ignore the 30%. What I do is I remove the 30% doubt, and then it's 100%.
And how do you remove it?
Well, there's a limiting belief there as you change the belief.
Okay. Give me an example of this.
You could say like, okay, well, my dad tried investing and when he did it, it just failed. And I'm going to be just like him, right? So the belief is if I invest like my dad, I'm going to fail. And the new belief will be if I invest like my dad, I'm not going to fail because I'm an entirely different person. It's a different situation. He failed because of this, blah, 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 blah. So it's basically the inverse of the old belief, which neutralizes it. And then you put a new reference point on there that's specific to that person.
That's really good.
So it basically takes that invisible anchor that was slowing you down and it turns it into like a rubber band pulling you towards the target. That's the mindset work that we do is we literally like rewire your subconscious mind to pull you in the direction you want to go instead of trying to overcome all your limitations based on your past. Because everybody here's mindset was created by their environment. We didn't consciously create it. So what we do is when we find a limiting belief or resistance or fear, you change that one. The next call, we do it again and over and over and over again. And over time, their mindset on how they look at life starts to change to a radically different version. The doubt goes away. The fear goes away. They become more resourceful. They become more creative, able to handle challenges and bounce back. Just like if we were to dissect your mindset now compared to 7 years ago, what you actually believe about success is radically different, right? And what this coaching does is it makes that 7 years compress. You did it through hard work and coaching in your ways too. You could have done it faster. I don't know. But the average person is being held back by their mindset. And mindset is always the limiting factor, always.
That's so big.
Especially when it comes to money. You'll have clients who are like, they can't figure out why they're growing, but they've never made more than 150 grand in their entire life. Their parents made 50 grand and they made 200 last year. And they start to self-sabotage. They don't know why. Because financial mindset is also a comfort zone. It's a barometer. And when you start to out earn it, if you're not careful, you'll self-sabotage to get back when you were growing up, you were told that like rich people are greedy and stuff like that. If you don't clean that up, it's in there.
Yeah. When you talk about goal setting and committing to bigger and bigger targets, what is the goal setting framework that you think everyone should have? Because for me, the different time horizons and I mean, a lot of people talk about long-term goals and 5-year, 10-year visions. And even in EOS, I mean, we use EOS and we have level 10 meetings weekly and all that and scorecards and all that. Even in EOS, when we have quarterly meetings, it says in the template, like, hey, like come up with your 3-year, 5-year, 10-year vision. I'm like, dude, like I'm not even thinking more than 3 months out. You know what I mean? So what is this? What is the correct way in your estimation to be goal setting?
Now, if you were like running dental offices, you could have a 3-year vision, right? But the business you're doing is it's evolving constantly. So you don't know. And you can only see as far as the frame you're at. If you can't see further than that, it's in the next version of you at a higher frequency, right? So what I typically like to refer to is possible goals and impossible goals. The possible goal is the goal that let's say you did 100 last year. Your possible goal this year is 110. You can build a plan, you can action on it. But then I also want an impossible goal in there because if you're not careful, that possible goal becomes your upper limit. So I have a couple different ways I ask those questions, but my favorite question is, if success was guaranteed and you could not fail, what would you do in the next 12 months? Because that question bypasses your mindset limitations. And that gives you as close to an intuitive gut answer as you can get. I do have another series of questions I can use to also get there as well, but that's the answer when they go like 2,000. And they're like, I have no idea how to do that, but it's super exciting. That's an intuitive target. That's saying life means that's the level you're supposed to play at. So that's the upper limit. And usually you have no idea how to action on that, but you're basically opening it up. I have like one example is that, I was talking to a coach a year ago and I hadn't made 6 figures in a month. I'd come close a couple of times. So my goal had been 6 figures a month was my income. And he's like, Jason, that's not high enough. And I was like, well, why is that? And he's like, well, you're not even excited. He's like, what about $1 million a month? And I like lit up like a Christmas tree. And that at the time would have required me to like 30x my business. I had no idea how to do that. And he's like, well, that's the number you need to aim at. And I could tell it was the number I needed to aim at because I was so excited about it. So I started to analyze it. And what I realized is that life was telling me I need to play at that level, even though I don't know how, because that's where my next connections and opportunities are at that level.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm aiming at the 100 level, I'm never going to see them. So it's almost like you want the goal that you can action on and you can execute on, and then you want the goal that you have no idea how to do. And that's the goal where we typically get that aha moment, that breakthrough, that connection, that opportunity where we leap up. because the other thing that I do is I remove the upper limits, because most people don't realize they have upper limits in place. So by getting rid of those upper limits, then you're open to more things happening.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. What are your thoughts on this? I think I'm a big believer in this. If you're that person that can perform when shit gets hard, it's not good advice for everyone, but I feel like for myself, every time I've spent up for that nicer thing, the nicer high-rise apartment, the nicer car, the nicer boat, every time I've done that, it's forced me to make more money as a function of it. It's forced me to get into a bigger and higher caliber network as a function of it. Everything has grown as a function of it every time I've forced myself to do that. And so for me, every time I spend up for the nicer thing, I feel like everything levels up as a function of it. I'll get more views on social media. I'll make more money. The network levels up, like I just alluded to. But it's not good advice for everyone. What is the mindset around that theory right there?
Well, I would agree that is the mindset for everybody. I actually had this story
Really?
about a boat hoist that I bought for my boat on Lake Travis
Okay.
a few years ago. And the example is like, the client says, I want to get, Porsche GT3 or some car that's a couple $100,000, right? And they're making decent money, but they're just like, no, I can't do that, right? That excitement is intuition, right? So if you're excited about something you can't afford, that's life telling you that's where you're supposed to be. So if you saying, no, I can't afford that, you're basically telling life that's not where I'm supposed to be. Instead of saying, yes, I'm going to get one. And this doesn't mean go lease it right now, but that's life calling you up to a higher level. And as you've said, leaned into the higher level, life has brought you the resources to do it.
Yes.
So and then it comes to your ability to manage the growth into that version as well, because it's going to the bigger your growth is, the more geometric your growth is, the more it's going to contradict your present mindset.
What do you mean when you say geometric?
Like 5x, 7x, 7x, 10x.
Okay. The more linear.
The bigger it is. Yeah. Because 1 or 2x is easy, but 10x is 10, 20x is hard. Like I 10x once and it almost killed me, but I had to let everything go and I had to let go of everything and just let it. And I'm just like, don't screw it up. So, and it kind of transformed everything. So you would be surprised to realize that everybody is throttling themselves. Everybody is. They don't realize that, because anything can happen in the next moment. Anything can.
When you say throttling, you mean
throttling back.
Throttling back.
Throttling back. Yeah.
And they're not performing at their 100% potential.
Yes. And because we have patterns of, and it happens to everybody. They grew up, in high school, you tried to make starter for the baseball team. You didn't make it and it crushed you for 4 years. So you stopped going after things that are passionate because it hurt too much. So you end up playing at 80%. Or you tried before to go for this next goal. You didn't do it. It was so overwhelming aiming at that level that you toned down. So basically the average person aims at a target that's probably 50 to 70% of their potential, because aiming at higher than that is so uncomfortable, they can't handle it. What I do is I'm like, let's go to 100%, make you as uncomfortable as you can. And then we'll use my coaching to balance you out as fast as we can. Because most people can't handle the growth of playing at 100% of their full potential.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good.
Because you play at a high level of your potential, and people around you who are close to you probably can't understand how you go through as much growth as you do. And there's also another level that will accelerate you too, it's more openness to the change and the chaos, basically. Because when we start to get overwhelmed, we can unintentionally, energetically throttle it back. That's too much. And then we slow it down a little bit. Versus and my favorite reference point I use when life is starting to hit me is, do you remember the movie Animal House with the 80s, the fraternity movie on Saturday Night Live?
I remember the movie, but I don't think I ever saw it.
But there's the partying fraternity and there's the military fraternity, and Kevin Bacon's in the military fraternity, and it was a Jim Belushi or John Belushi, I forget. They're having a toga party, and it cuts to the scene where Kevin Bacon's in tighty whities on all fours getting initiated and spanked, right? And they're partying like crazy, and he gets spanked and he goes, "Oh, that hurts." And he goes, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" So every time I think about life getting overwhelming, that picture pops into my head and I say, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" And it makes me start laughing and get out of resistance.
That's really good.
Because nobody wants to overwhelm.
Yeah.
But that's where all the growth and the magic comes from.
Yeah. Now, how do you simplify things when, let's just say, you're a business owner, a real estate investor, and things get heavy? We're talking about being uncomfortable, and the level up happens, after these longer periods of feeling uncomfortable. But how do you simplify things when things feel chaotic and things get really heavy? and you got to push past. How do you simplify that very moment in order for you to attack what needs to be attacked and get through on the other side?
I talk to my coach.
Yeah, absolutely. It's huge. Yeah.
Talk to my coach because
Yeah.
I'm in need of outside perspective if it's all chaos like that.
Mm.
Now, if I can sit down and map it out and try to see where I'm causing the chaos that I created, I can do that. But if I'm on my own, I'll shift my frame, which is my point of view about the situation, from overwhelmed to something better. But that's usually, if you're a high performer, you need a coach. Like that's an instant perspective. Like literally it's 5 minutes going, oh, that. And you're like, so, but if you don't have the coach, then I would look at shifting my frame. And frame is like the point of view you're operating from, because if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're in a frame like this is too much. So I would shift that point of view as it's not too much. This is a growth opportunity. What am I missing? Take a break, step back for a second, see what's going on, see what's important. And what's most likely happening is you've got too many results and actions that are mandatory.
What do you mean? Well, give me an example.
Well, when we're managing our time on a day-to-day basis, you look at all the stuff you do in a week. Some of the stuff is a must. You have to do it. And some of it is optional, right? It can wait to next week. It doesn't even have to happen at all. Now, we want to get it done, but the fact of the matter is the must ones are the ones that are going to hit the result. And when we start to get overwhelmed, we're generally thinking that everything's a must versus looking at our action items and say, what actually has to happen to hit the target? Well, this one here would support it a little bit, but actually isn't necessary. So if you can hit the target without taking this action, then don't take that action unless you got free time, because most people don't plan their time correctly. They should be taking like 2 hours a week to plan your time.
What is the proper way to kind of plan out your work week or the ideal schedule? Like, what is the ideal schedule for you, or something that you might teach another business owner?
Well, I still use the Tony Robbins methodology,
that
I learned 13 years ago, which is basically dump chunk schedule.
What's that mean?
You dump everything down, you chunk it into outcomes, right? Because if you say I need to do 50 things this week, write them on a piece of paper, and if you look at those 50 things, you may have 7 outcomes. Right? So the number one thing you want to start thinking in terms of outcomes instead of actions. Because when you start to think in actions, you feel successful when you take 50 action items. But when you're focused on outcomes, you'll feel successful when you hit 7 outcomes. And then when you then you group the outcome with the actions, and then you look at the action items that are in that outcome and say, how many of these do I actually need to take to hit the target? Those are the musts. And then how much time do I need to hit those? And then that outcome one has, out of 5 action items, 3 are must, and it's going to take you 45 minutes. Go to your calendar, put outcome 1, block it out.
That's really good. Okay. And so then you got outcome 2, which could be a whole different bucket. And that could be 13 action items that fall into that.
Yeah.
Do you try to simplify those 13 action items?
Well, yeah. Because when you start to think in terms of outcomes, you're no longer thinking, what do I have to do? What's my outcome? And then you can look at, say, well, these are the items I thought I had to do. This is my outcome. And then you can ask yourself, well, what's a better action I could take to hit the outcome that I haven't thought of yet? What can I leverage? Who can I give to somebody else? So that's kind of outcome-focused planning, outcome-focused thinking.
Yeah, that's really good. Jason, I appreciate you coming on, dropping so much game, so much value. Pumped to have you talk on our 7-Figure Creator Community Call later today. Where can the folks get in touch with you if they want to learn more or even work with you?
If you want to work with me, you can go to freeintrosession.com and get on my calendar, my team's calendar. We have a phone call. That's the simplest place, freeintrosession.com. You can also go to my Instagram, the Jason Drees, or Jason Drees Coaching. Yeah.
There it is. He's Jason Drees, always dropping value, always dropping game. I'm Rich Summers. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.